Our campus must be dry.
What's up, everyone? This is another edition of Dry Campus. This is episode 7. We have a lot to talk about today. I'm your host, Sai Balabhadrapachurni, with my co-host, Ethan Dillman. This is going to be a fun one. Unfortunately, we had a tough loss to Ohio State this past weekend. Only a 7-point loss. It was a really tight game, showed tremendous fight, but it's a loss nonetheless. So today we're going to be talking about the Ohio State game. We're going to preview the Maryland game upcoming this weekend. And just another reminder, we just released our first basketball podcast previewing the IUBB basketball season coming up, and that's going to be really exciting as well. So catch that. That's out on Spotify and on YouTube. So check that out. There's a big Maui Invitational next week. So, let's just get excited. Ethan, tell me what you thought. Initial thoughts about that Ohio State game.
Obviously I was disappointed. I knew coming in that we were most likely not going to win, but of course when you're in the game and you're watching the game, it's like, and then when you play good enough to win and you don't come out with the win, you're frustrated. But of course in hindsight, losing by a touchdown to one of the best teams in the nation, certainly the best team in the Big Ten, and having a chance to tie the game. We had the ball twice, down 7 in the fourth quarter. I really liked our performance. I'm just overall really proud of our guys. Being down, I believe we were down 35-7 at one point, and they could have folded over. They could have said, you know what, we're gonna take this one and we'll take this heavy loss and we'll move on to Maryland. But they fought. They got back together. After that third quarter touchdown by Ohio State, they didn't score again. At least the offense didn't score again. Of course, there's a pick six, but overall, I am genuinely proud of this team for coming back and making this a fight. Obviously, Penix what more can you say? Nearly 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. Those are Heisman numbers. Those are numbers that not many quarterbacks can do, especially against Ohio State. He kept us in this game. What's in my opinion the most impressive stat coming out of this game is our -1 rushing yard. When we ran the ball, we did not even gain any positive. Like, we would gain positive yards, but we would gain negative yards back. And we were still only lost by 7. That's extremely impressive. And that shows that we're close. We are close as a program to be able to knock off a team like Ohio State. But there's a lot to learn. We made plenty of mistakes. And we'll kind of talk about those mistakes as we talk later in this podcast. But overall, I am proud of this team. The defense really stepped up in the second half, even played well at times in the first half, got some turnovers. Offense finally got going in the second half. They played a great game. They didn't play well enough, though. And against a team like Ohio State, you have to consistently play great.
Yeah, the way I saw this game, I thought we were, especially at halftime and especially after they scored that first touchdown of the second half, I thought we were going to get blown out and things were looking really bleak at a certain point in time. So I agree with you, and I definitely am proud of this team for fighting and rallying the way they did to make it as close as it was. They had the ball with an opportunity to tie the game at the end of it, and that's really that's all you can really ask for when you're down 35-7 in the second half against a behemoth of a team like Ohio State. Just to be able to have the opportunity to win the ball game is huge. And you said it. Penix was outstanding. Freifogel was incredible. Um, he's just continuing to have a career season. I didn't know he was a senior. I thought he was younger, but he is. That's a bummer in itself because that Penix to Freifogel connection is just spot on. It was clicking. Penix just puts it up there in the perfect spot, and Freifogel comes down with it. It's like tough throws, tough catches. Like they just make it happen. And at the core of it, last week I said it was going to come down to Justin Fields versus Penix, and I was wrong. Ohio State outplayed us in other parts of the game where I thought we were going to excel at. I thought we were going to do a better job of stopping the run than the pass, and that's the area we really struggled in because look, at the end of the day, Michael Penix Jr. completely outplayed Justin Fields. I know Fields had a lot of yards on the ground, but he threw two touchdowns, 3 interceptions, something like that. He threw
300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Exactly. So Justin Fields, just to put this in perspective to you and to everyone else, Justin Fields threw 3 interceptions all of last season, and those were his only 3 career interceptions in college football, I believe.
And also 2 of those interceptions came against Clemson too. That's another.
Okay, so and we picked them off 3 times today. Our defense, had its lapses during the game, but that's given against a high-powered offense like Ohio State. But we were really good at stopping Justin Fields. We were great at applying the pressure. The defensive line had an outstanding game when it came to, pressuring the quarterback. They struggled with the run, definitely. But, our secondary was great when it needed to be to get those interceptions. So we really gave Justin Fields all we had. And I really didn't see this happening, but Master Teague kind of beat us. And that was the issue we had. We weren't able to stop him. That was the main struggle. And that first half killed us. As much as we rallied in the second half, there were crucial mistakes in the first half that we really struggled to recover from at the end of the day. Why don't you take me through some of these key plays that were game changers that really, if they had gone our way, maybe we could have ended up with a better result.
Yeah, so 3 come to mind. I think 3, these are the biggest ones. The first one was we were driving down in the first quarter. I believe we were just down 7-0. It was a 4th and 2 around the Ohio State 40-ish, 35-yard line. And as great as a game as Freifogel had, Penix hit Freifogel in the hands and he dropped it. Turnover on downs. That sucked. We were looking to at least get 3 points on that drive, if not 7. So that was mistake number 1. What I believe was the biggest mistake of the game was later in that half, in the second quarter. We're down 21-7. Definitely within reach, especially with a whole other half to play. We're driving. Penix makes a great throw to Ellis, and Ellis fumbles it. Great play by the Ohio State DB to come in and swing that ball away. The ref was just there. That was a whole weird thing. Had his leg up. I don't know. I'm sure the ref didn't mean to be in the way. Just kind of happened that way. And Ohio State recovered. That was crucial. I mean, that was a 14-point swing because Ohio State then drove and got the touchdown with about 20 seconds left in the first half. So possibly going into the half down 21-14, you're now down 28-7. And with Ohio State then receiving the second half kickoff, I mean, that just flipped the whole momentum of the game. So that fumble really, really cost us. Then the third one that I don't think is talked about enough is the play before the pick 6 that Penix threw. Penix had to dime again to Ellis, and I'm not trying to harp on Ellis. He did have a touchdown, and he did overall have a good game. But he had a dime to Ellis, and he drops it. It would have been about a 25, 30-yard pass that would have gotten us to about midfield. Next play is to pick six. Ellis catches that pass. Perhaps we're going down, scoring a touchdown. Costly mistakes. And that can happen against these teams. And Ohio State had their fair share of mistakes. Some of those field interceptions, I don't know where he was throwing. I mean, those were just genuinely bad throws. But that was partly because of our pressure. Our D line was able to put on pressure on field and get him rattled. But overall, I wasn't shocked that we made mistakes. It was the magnitude of those mistakes. It was the fumble on the Ohio State 10-yard line. It was, the pick six. Just mistakes that just can't happen against an Ohio State team. And the fact that we made all of those mistakes and still only lost by one score is a kudos to this IU team and how they're resilient and just how talented this team is. And I guess just one more thing. Yeah, we made those mistakes, but Ohio State's a great team. They're going to cause mistakes. They're a good enough team. I don't know how many teams are going to be able to strip Ellis there at the 10-yard line, or not many DBs in the nation are going to be able to do that. So it's almost, yeah, we made the mistakes, but it's also a credit to Ohio State for just always having great situational awareness and being there.
Well, here's the thing, Ethan. I'm not going to absolve blame for Ellis because of Ohio State's DBs there, all right? Because watching that play back, the DB didn't even strip the ball. He just kind of lost it. Yes, the ref was there and it kind of caused a commotion there. But if you were watching the slow motion replay, he makes a motion at the ball, trying to make some contact with it. But there isn't actually any contact that's made between the DB and the ball. The ball just kind of pops out, and that's on Ellis for just not having good ball security. And that was, that's at certain points that's been an issue for this offense in terms of, not as much holding on to the football. We haven't really been had problems with fumbling it, but the drops have been really apparent this season. Over these first 5 games. You can almost pencil in Peyton Hendershot for about a drop a game. And, that was another play that I thought really was kind of big. Not as big in terms of, if the play had worked out in our favor, it would have changed everything. But, we had that play at the end where, we have 30 seconds left. Penix throws it down the field to Hendershot to about our 40 where, if he caught it, he probably could have gotten to our 35 or close to the 30 with yards after catch. But he completely dropped it. And luckily it went through the hands of the defender, but really didn't matter at the end of the day. But, if that play happens, then maybe you can take a shot at the end zone and, and Penix can throw some sort of a deep ball to Freifogel and hope he comes down with it. Give us a shot. But at the end of the game, we were forced with, about 5 seconds left in the game to do one of those, to attempt to do the impossible and
Rutgers
try to
play.
do exactly what I was going to say, try to do a Rutgers type of, miracle play, which, that the probability of that succeeding is minimal. So, it's, I would love to have a game where Peyton Hendershot doesn't have a drop pass, but really what it comes down to for me, I love the tremendous amount of fight that this team showed, but I also think that, this team wasn't ready yet for that caliber of a win. We weren't ready to take that next step. We made a lot of great strides this season. This team really believes in themselves and plays with a lot of confidence because of Tom Allen's coaching, and that's really what it comes down to. But I don't know if it was ready to take that next step because in that first half, it sort of seemed like they came out with some pregame jitters. They didn't seem like they were really ready to take that leap in step of competition and play up to the level that Ohio State was playing at. The defense was kind of playing at that level, but the offense was really just, had a lot of hiccups to start the game and didn't really look like they were ready to compete out there until the second half. And once they they got back into the game and they fought hard, but they weren't able to make that final push. It was, and what I attribute to that is you just make one mistake too many, and that kind of shows what team is on what level and which team is on that lower level of not being able to take that next step. Ohio State's been there, done this before, and they have that championship pedigree in their nature, and they know how to eke out these close games. So that's the next step for us. It's really tough to take a loss like this, but there's still more football to be played this season, and implications wise, now we have to really look at trying to get a good bowl game, because it's probably a lost cause trying to win the Big Ten at this point. Just because we're in the same division as Ohio State, and it's mathematically almost impossible to ask Ohio State to lose 2 of their next 3 games. But yeah, we just have to get a good bowl game, try and win out. I expect us to beat Wisconsin at this point. That's kind of the place I'm at. But yeah, going 7-1, getting a good bowl game, and knocking out one of those next steps on Coach Allen's list of goals. The 10, 26, 50. We had that winning season. Now the next step is to go and win that bowl game.
Yeah, and going back to how you're saying like where we are as a program, not fully ready for a game like this. We're 2 seasons ago, we didn't make a bowl. We were 5-7, had just lost to Purdue. And now all of a sudden, we kind of have a breakout year last year where we win, but eventually lost to Gator Bowl. And this year's been really the full breakout where we break into the top 10. We're ahead of schedule as a program. When we hired Coach Allen, would have been the 2017 season was his first season when I was a freshman there at IU. To say that we would be a top 10 team in the nation in just 4 years, I think would have been an overreaching goal that we've already reached, especially in football where it's hard. It's more difficult, in my opinion, than college basketball to build and sustain a program, especially when we're in the Big Ten East every year. And I know this year, excluding Ohio State, it's down. Michigan and Penn State are not as good as in years past. Penn State is just absolutely crumbled. I don't know what has happened to them. But we are ahead of schedule. We were 9th ranked team in the nation within 7 points of a top 4 team in the nation. So I'm very satisfied with where we are as a program. And what's going to be very important for this team going into as we move on here to the Maryland game. I know the word of the week. I know there's always like a word of the week that Indiana football uses. It's response this week. So, this team, as resilient as it's been all year, lost their first game to Ohio State. Let's have a great response against a Maryland team that isn't great. I don't think they're bad either. They have 2 wins. They've beaten Minnesota. They've beaten Penn State. And their 1 losses to an undefeated Northwestern team. However, we should win this game by, in my opinion, at least 20 points. Maryland's a team with a good offense and not a great defense. We need to punch them in the mouth and come out and score on our first possession and get a 3-and-out on our first defensive possession. I'm very intrigued, very intrigued to see what is our response after a loss. This team is yet to lose this season. So it's going to be interesting how they respond, especially to a Maryland team that hasn't played. I believe they went 2 straight weeks without playing. And of course, Wisconsin's not playing this week. So we're always catching teams that are coming off bye weeks. It's just interesting how that always works out for us. But again, the one word being response. How are we going to respond? Defense played pretty well against Ohio State. Offense had some great moments. Even though we didn't win, how are we going to translate that to the Maryland game?
Did you say Wisconsin's not playing this week?
No, Wisconsin-Minnesota games. It's because of Minnesota. Minnesota has COVID issues. But yeah, they're not playing this week. So this will be our third straight, if we can play this week and next week, it would be a third straight week of playing a team that had not played the previous week.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to think about because I think Ohio State really looked well rested in the first half. I think that was like another point where
They punched us in the mouth in the first drive.
that's exactly what I was gonna come to. They looked really energized. On the first drive, have a huge play and they score in two plays, and then on that ensuing kickoff, they just hit us hard. So they looked like they had a ton of energy coming out in that game, and obviously we kind of had the advantage in terms of rhythm, and that showed from the defensive side of the ball, not really on the offense, but. That's something to think about moving forward in these games. Do I think Maryland and Wisconsin, maybe Wisconsin, but do I think Maryland will come out with that same fire that Ohio State did? No, because I think, when you have, when you're not as good as a team as Ohio State is, and when you're more of the average lower tier type of team, that rest might not do you as good. And they've been off for 2 weeks, so they really are kind of out of rhythm. And for a lot of that time, I don't know how many of them have been really practicing because of the amount of COVID cases they've had. So it's going to be interesting, man. Maryland's an interesting team. I don't really know what to make of them. They have a winning record, so it'd be nice to get a win against a team with a winning record. As much success as we've had over the past couple years, we haven't really beaten a lot of teams with winning records. So it'd be nice to get that win, but they've had a weird season. They lost 43-3 against Northwestern, and as good as Northwestern has been this year, they're not really known for their offense. So they gave up 43 points to Northwestern, which is kind of a testament to how bad their defense is. They beat Minnesota in overtime, which is I think Tagovailoa had a Penix type of game against Penn State where he made like a dive at the end zone in overtime. It was almost identical. Not as cool though. Not nearly as cool as the Penix dive. But then they beat Penn State, and Penn State's crumbling. So I don't really know what to make of this team based off of what I see. They have an offense that can score a lot of points. They have players with some juice. Tua's brother, Talia Tagovailoa. I think Maryland has found their quarterback in this kid. I think he's really talented, dual threat, who can pass the football and run the football really well. Jake Funk, their running back, is solid, serviceable guy, and they have a 5-star freshman, Raheem Jarrett, who's performed pretty well.
He's been good.
Exactly, catching passes from Tagovailoa. So it's an interesting team. They give up a lot of points on defense, though.
Yeah, and these are these types of teams are sneaky. These are the teams that a top 25 team, as Indiana is, should beat. But this was what Indiana was like 5-6 years ago. Always had kind of that good offense, could always score. Going back to the Tevin Coleman days where we would just give the ball to Coleman and he would do whatever with it. But at the end of the day, we are a more talented team than this team, than the Maryland team. This would be a good test for our defense. And I know they allowed 35 points against Ohio State, which, quite frankly, I'll take that. That's a great outing, especially with the 3 interceptions we had against Fields. But I think it'll be a good test for this defense. Playing a good offense in Maryland, can they really shut them down? And I'm not expecting a shutout, but if we can hold this Maryland team to under 3 touchdowns, I think that'd be a great outing from this defense. I believe that the IU defense too. We're averaging like 2.5 interceptions a game. It's almost expected to get an interception on a drive at this point. The way our guys are playing, I think it was Jamar Johnson against Ohio State who had the 2 interceptions. One, of course, where he fumbled, and that was That was Indiana football in 10 seconds, where we get an interception and we fumble it and give it right back to them. But I'm excited to see how this defense shows up against a good offense, against a quarterback that obviously has good genes. Brother plays for the Dolphins. And then for this offense, let's see if Penix can keep it up. It's really the first time that Penix is in the Heisman talk. He's not talked about as like the number one, number two guy. The Florida quarterback's having a fantastic year. I know the BYU quarterback as well. But this is kind of the first time where he put the world on notice against Ohio State, because everybody was watching that game. LeBron tweeted him out. You had all these players, NBA, NFL players that are like, take notice of this kid. How is he going to respond now with all this national attention on him? That's going to be very interesting to see, and I hope he balls out as usual.
I think it's absolutely huge because when we look at it, this is a perfect time for him to be making that leap because he's just a sophomore and he has maybe another year. He definitely another year with Indiana. Next year he'll be back, and maybe a year on top of that, depending on how things go next year. Incredibly talented, and I think you see a lot in Taulia that you did in Penix maybe a little bit last year, where a rising star within the conference at the quarterback position, who I could see next year it kind of being a battle between Penix, Tagovailoa, and maybe Graham Mertz as the best quarterbacks in the conference, because Justin Fields is going to be gone next year. I know Ohio State has the number one recruit for 2022, but got like a year or two gap in between then. I don't know who they have a quarterback after Justin Fields. So probably still someone who's good enough for Ohio State, but I could really see Penix taking over this conference next year. But I definitely do see Tagovailoa as a guy who's incredibly talented, obviously has the genes to kind of keep Maryland in games. I know because of their quarterback that they're going to be able to score points, and it is up to our defense to kind of apply the same type of pressure we did when we really troubled Justin Fields. And one of the things that I want to see, Ethan, in this game that we didn't really see in the Ohio State game is points off of the turnovers. I think that's an area that really hurt us in this past game. We had 3 interceptions and 0 points on all of them. I think after that first interception, that might have been the Freifogel drop right after that. And then the second interception, I think we had to punt, or one of those first 2 interceptions was the Freifogel drop. And then that third interception, of course, as you said, Indiana football in a nutshell, intercepted and then fumble. So, really weren't able to score on any of those turnovers. That's something I want to see in this game. I want to be able to take the ball away from Maryland and then punch them in the mouth. I think that's going to be really important. And in just getting us back on track, and not only getting a win, I think it's important for us to, win by multiple possessions.
Yeah, and I think at this point, when you're playing a team that you can beat, as we are about to play Maryland, winning by more points matters now in terms of getting a better bowl. We're already bowl eligible. I know this year I think the mark is 4 wins, so we're already there. But getting that New Year's Six bowl is kind of our goal now. And now we got Northwestern in the picture in the Big Ten. We can't worry about what they're doing, but beating Maryland by 7 is not going to look as good, to a committee that's selecting, who wants to play or who should play at a certain bowl, rather than beating Maryland by 35. So that matters now, and beating teams who you should beat by a significant margin. Looking at the rest of our schedule, that's what the Maryland and Purdue game should be. Those 2 games should be, you not only beat Maryland and Purdue, but you beat them handily and you give them no life. Wisconsin, I really don't know what to think of them. I've only seen them play 3 times. They've had 2 dominant games, and then they had a completely inept offense against Northwestern. I think that's partly, kudos to that Northwestern defense. They are a legit defense. Um, but still putting up 7 points. I mean, that was just an ugly game to watch, quite frankly. And watching that Wisconsin Northwestern game after the Indiana Ohio State game, that made me even more confident that IU is the second best team in the Big Ten. For me personally, with the eye test, and we'll have to prove it against Wisconsin, but the eye test tells me that I think we really are the second best team in this conference.
Yeah, it's tough because originally I wanted Northwestern to win this game, and that was with the mindset of I want Indiana to beat Ohio State, and Northwestern to beat Wisconsin, and then we have that Indiana Northwestern Big Ten championship game that everybody wants to see.
Everybody thought it was going to happen.
But after we lost to Ohio State, definitely wanted to see Wisconsin win that game because we'd have an opportunity to play them. We probably won't have an opportunity to play Northwestern now because Wisconsin's missing another game. So Northwestern is pretty much a lock for the Big Ten championship game at this point. So once we play Wisconsin, we might have to play Wisconsin twice if we play them in that, second place versus second place game in the, Champions Weekend, whatever it is, which, I don't know the point of that weekend when it's not the Big Ten championship, but,
extra game, yes.
Extra game, extra win, maybe. I think we are the second best team in the Big Ten, and it's unfortunate that we can't prove it. And I know I've talked to you about this, about how much I really hate the division system within the Big Ten. If you look at conferences like the ACC and the Big 12, they've moved away from the division system and just basically have all the teams in the conference. And I don't know how the scheduling works, and it's probably randomized in some sort of way, but it's just the top 2 teams in each conference play each other. That's why in the ACC, you see Clemson and Notre Dame played each other. Notre Dame won, but they're still the 2 best teams in the conference, so they'll probably play again in the ACC championship game. That would have been nice in the Big Ten because now, maybe Northwestern probably still would have made the championship game if we had something like that because of a pretty weak schedule that they had. But it would give us a chance for a rematch against Ohio State. Which probably would have been really cool to see. That would have been really highly anticipated because of how good of a game we witnessed this weekend. But man, we just got to get back on schedule. I think this Maryland game could be a trap game where our guys aren't are still bummed out about the Ohio State loss and aren't really looking forward to getting back on track and continuing the season when they look at it and see that there's really not much of a chance for them to go to that championship game. So it's really about finding that motivation of, saying, hey, we can't control what other teams are doing. We can only control our destiny. And the goal now is we have to win out. I think that's a reasonable expectation and goal. What we saw from Wisconsin this past weekend really tells me that is a game that we should win. Not I'll be happy if it's a 1-possession loss or we lose by 3. No, I'm going into it with the mindset of I expect us to win.
Yeah, exactly. That's what watching that Wisconsin Northwestern game did to me as well. And you hit the nail on the head, man. Just onward. Did this team, but I do believe that this team can face adversity well. We have the most inspiring coach I think you could ask for college football, and Coach Allen. I think we have great team leaders. I think Penix is kind of settling into that leadership role really well. The defense is just full of leaders and full of guys that just are great athletes. Just love watching this team. Prediction for this weekend, I think we win, obviously. I really don't think it's close. I'm going to go 45-21. It's my final score. I think Penix still has a great game. He's not going to throw for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think we're actually going to have positive rushing yards this game. I think that's a good goal. for this rushing game, this offensive line to get some rushing yards. But I think Penix still has a great game, probably around 300-ish yards, 3 touchdowns. Let's see if he can throw 0 interceptions too. That'll be key. No mistakes, no turnovers by this offense, no interceptions, no fumbles. Keep everything clean. So that's my prediction.
That'd be really nice to see. And I know I don't think we touched upon it, but you kind of just mentioned it right there with improved offensive line play. That's something that we really struggled with in the Ohio State game. That's the battle that really we lost. The line of scrimmage battle was really tough for us in terms of our rushing attack and their rushing attack. We were able to get pressure on Fields, but for the most part, in every other area, we lost that line of scrimmage battle. And it wasn't really close. We really weren't able to run, and at a certain point, we were just like, "All right, Penix, air it out every play." We're not even gonna try to trick the defense. We're not even gonna put a guy in the backfield with you. We're just gonna go shotgun, empty backfield every single time. So, I hope we're able to run the ball a little bit more this game. I do agree. Penix is not going to throw for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns again. He threw that. He had that type of game because it was necessary. But this team isn't the type of team that's going to run up the score and try to air it out when we're up by 20. So I think we're going to do what we need to do and get the job done. I'm going to predict that it's going to be a 38-17 game. So 38-17. I think Penix has a great game again. I think he's consistently gonna be above 300 yards though. I think you can really pencil that in at this point. He's that good where he's gonna be one of those quarterbacks who week in and week out deliver those types of tremendous performances. So I'm gonna go 300 yards, 2 or 3 touchdowns, and I think Freifogel is gonna have another 150-yard plus game.
Yeah, I mean, he's talk about a guy that has been a surprise. And we knew he was a good receiver, but I mean, he's playing at an all-American level. I mean, he's had 2 straight games of 200 plus receiving yards. And a lot of these balls too, these are like 50-50 balls that he's just winning. I mean, of course, a lot of them are great passes by Penix, but I mean, he's covered in these passes. Like, these DBs are covering him well. He's just better, more athletic, and he's just grabbing these balls. He's been such a surprise this year. Incredible player. I mean, I know everybody has extra year of eligibility because of COVID. I don't know how some programs are going to deal with that because I know you can only have a certain amount of people on a roster. It'll be weird how we'll deal with that. But, he's a special player. He's been awesome to watch.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we kind of came into the season, we're all talking about Whop Fillier, and, they're the same year, which is crazy to me that, Whop has, been the guy for like 3 years in the same year. And then Freifogel just comes out of nowhere and kind of just says, all right, I've been mediocre the past few seasons, but I'm just having a breakout year that's going to just take everyone by storm. And, who knows? I think, I've heard a lot of chatter about how, that Ohio State game was his NFL draft tape right there in a nutshell. So, we'll see what happens. I think he could be definitely playing on Sundays. He's really that good. He's had that type of season so far. But we'll see what happens. Obviously an extra year of eligibility. That's going to be a decision to make later on. But the Penix to Freifogel connection is absolutely clicking right now, and it's something that you love to see. But I also wanted to mention this in terms of Tom Allen. Sign that man to an extension now, because I'm hearing like fans from other schools, like I'm hearing Michigan fans saying, let's get Tom Allen, or like other schools saying, let's get Tom Allen. You're not taking Tom Allen out of Indiana.
Here's
no way.
Here's what our athletic director should do. He's a new AD, I forget his name, but he should ask Coach, how much money do you want for how many years? And Coach Allen says something, and you give him that, because what he has done for this program has been I mean, you can't overstate what he's done for this program. To go from years and decades of being the laughing stock of the Big Ten and never getting anywhere to all of a sudden being a top 10 team where LeBron is tweeting you out saying that you're a great team and Kirk Herbstreit saying you're one of the, you deserve a New Year's Six Bowl. Like, it's been such an awesome, surreal season. It's been such a great turnaround. It's interesting to see the Purdue head coach, I believe, is Coach Brom, and he's making about twice as much as Allen right now. And I think that's going to change. I think that's going to change. I think what he's done, you can't justify not paying him, obviously. And I believe we'll get a deal done here sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and it has to happen soon because we can't lose Tom Allen, man. He is our program in a lot of ways. It's top down management, and he has changed the culture of the Indiana Hoosiers football program completely, and it's only gonna get better because we're doing this with a lot of 3-star recruits. We don't have a lot of top recruits in the nation. And moving forward, people are seeing what this program's doing. If we get those better recruits who are, some of the top guys in the country at every position under this type of coaching, the sky is the limit, man. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I'm going to go ahead and predict that in the next 5 years, we will win a Big Ten championship. And
that's fair. That's very fair.
And I think we'll make a college football playoff appearance in the next 5 years.
Man, that's a bold statement, but I mean, we were possibly a game away from it this year.
Yeah.
We're close. We're closer than we've ever been. So that's what makes it so exciting. Is like, wow, we're set at the end of the season when the season's all said and done. There's a chance we can say we were 7 points away from making the playoff.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you from that standpoint. And the only reason I say that is I feel like if we win the Big Ten at some point in the future and we maybe we go undefeated or we only have one loss, that should be good enough to be in the college football playoff anyways. But look, it's been a great year, and just because we lost to Ohio State, I think we really have to have that mindset of just keep going through the season, trying to win these remaining games, and end with a successful season. If we go 7-1 and 8-1 with that Champions Weekend, I genuinely see us being able to get a New Year's Six Bowl, and boy, that would be a fun time.
Really, really fun time. Yeah, possibly I've heard Fiesta Bowl maybe, or what? I'm not going to be picky. I don't care which one. If we can get one, I'll take it. It does suck that the Rose Bowl this year is a playoff game, so got no shot at Rose Bowl. But talk about another very reasonable expectation, Rose Bowl. Getting to play in Rose Bowl would absolutely be a dream come true for the players and for all the fans. But yeah, we just got to take care of business next week against Maryland. Yeah, I'm excited. Also excited for tonight's game against Tennessee Tech for basketball. I believe when this pod comes out, the game would have already happened. So hopefully we take care of business against them and move on to Maui.
Yep, it's going to be really exciting to follow the basketball season and the rest of the football season. Hopefully good things are going to happen in both of those. But overall, very excited for this upcoming game against Maryland, which will be, I believe, is it at noon?
Noon game.
Noon game on ESPN2. We will be live tweeting that game as well. As I always say, Follow us on social media at Dry Campus Pod on Instagram and at Pod Dry on Twitter. We will be, I just said we'll be live tweeting the game.
Subscribe, smash the subscribe button on YouTube.
Absolutely, smash the subscribe button, and it's gonna be out on Spotify and YouTube. So just let us know what your thoughts are, and keep in touch. We always want to know what your thoughts are and see what topics you might be interested in us talking about. We are thinking of slowly starting to maybe have guests on the podcast. It's something we're looking into right now. So if you're somebody who's really a big Hoosier fan, or maybe a fan of another team in the Big Ten, and you're interested in kind of getting our thoughts and spurring some interesting debate, just DM us on any of those social media platforms that I just listed out. But anyways, hopefully we get a solid win on Saturday, and our basketball season starts off in the right way. So with that being said, that was another episode of Dry Campus. Thank you guys, and we'll catch you next week.
Our campus